I hope you all had a great weekend. I'm Ron Moore, Director of Operations for 40 Plus. 40 Plus of Greater Washington has been in existence for almost 70 years. We're a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to help experienced professionals know and effectively communicate their value with confidence in securing a new position or changing careers. Today, we would like to thank the Fairfax County Economic Development Authority for sponsoring this speaker series. As you know, the Fairfax County Economic Development Authority has a talent initiative program that provides great resources to connect our 40 plus members to hiring companies, agencies, and nonprofits across Northern Virginia through their workinnorthernvirginia.com website. We could not do this program without their support, and I will put their website address in the chat for you to get. If you're looking for a way to keep your skills sharp and enhance your resume, consider volunteering here at 40 Plus of Greater Washington. There are many opportunities, and we would certainly appreciate your help. And finally, did you know that we have a YouTube channel? If you want to check out previous sessions or be alerted whenever we post new content, please go to our channel and like and subscribe and tap the notification bell. So this morning, I'd like to welcome back Mike Batt, representing our sponsor, FCEDA. He will speak about continuing a career with more than 100,000 jobs available to work remotely and in office settings across Northern Virginia. Mike is the director of FCEDA's Talent Initiative Program. In this role, he is responsible for developing programs and delivering solutions to solve the talent management attraction challenge at scale, aimed at retention, retaining, growth, and attraction. Mike is happy to answer your questions. You can either put up your digital hand using the Zoom reactions, or put your questions in the chat. We'll be monitoring that. So with that, good morning, Mike. Welcome back to our 40 Plus Monday speaker series.
Thanks, Ron. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the opportunity to share some of the experiences I have, some ideas and opportunities for some upskilling, and then where to find opportunities. And I want to just emphasize out of the gate, yes, I represent Fairfax County here in Northern Virginia, but the site that has been put in the window, workinnorthernvirginia.com, I'm sure we'll have a couple minutes and I can show it to you live. It really represents all the career opportunities in Northern Virginia, the 10 jurisdictions from Arlington out to Loudoun, Prince William, as well as the District of Columbia. It does not include the Maryland side, but even from the Maryland side, if you're on the Maryland side, there's tons of remote job opportunities. So I'll share something that hopefully is relevant and appealing and lets you know there's something out there for everyone. There's an opportunity out there for everyone. Just a little bit more on where I'm coming from and my angle, and hopefully where I hope I can help and share some best practices is I spent 30 years in the tech industry. I was on the sales, marketing, operations, business side, and 23 of that was at Microsoft, where I hit all the magic numbers to hit the retirement program they had when I hit 55. I'm now 58, and I took a little time off and reinvented myself and found an opportunity that I'm really thoroughly enjoying, which is promoting and helping connect those looking for jobs and different career opportunities with all of our hiring companies out there. I work with the chief human resource officers and their recruiters from most of our companies here in the region, across any and all industries. We're doing lots of different career fairs, so I'll touch on that. My wife too, we met in the tech industry, and again, we went from tech to I'm working for a government agency, the Economic Development Authority. She was in tech, and now she's working for a company called Wayforth that does moving management, mainly senior moving management. So she's project managing, helping move seniors out of their homes to independent living or assisted living, and she's loving it. So just there's amazing career change opportunities out there to consider. Let me go ahead and share my desktop, and I'll walk through a few slides on just to keep me on track, really with the messaging. But I see 21 of us on here, so don't hesitate to chime in either through chat or just come off mute and ask a question. Ron noticed this a little earlier when I pulled this slide up. It's like, hey, work in Northern Virginia, you're showing DC. Again, this is all about the DC, Northern Virginia metro area. So again, I want to make, I'm all about Fairfax County, but I'm a lifelong resident here and know the area well, and want to help across all of the region, Maryland, DC, and Virginia. So I think we have some good ideas. I mean, for me, what would be appealing is go get a remote job if you're on the Maryland side and don't want to come across the bridge, and work for one of the Virginia companies that have career opportunities there. So with that said, let me just share some I think some best practices, some ideas, some resources out there that I'd encourage you to take advantage of. First and foremost, cybersecurity, ever increasing, and I want to emphasize, this is the #1 region for cybersecurity jobs in the country, in the entire United States. And so if technology is not your forte, think about cybersecurity companies and knowing that they have a need for every type of resource, from operations to HR to sales to marketing, you name it. So just know, when I say cybersecurity, just know that is a hot market. Those companies are in high demand. They have lots of career opportunities, and I'll share some examples of that here in a second. There's one, for example, in Tysons, ID.me, does identity management, and they are growing rapidly. They just added another 500 jobs. And so again, there could be remote jobs over in Tysons out there. We've touched on this, but we just launched it, and I'll show it to you in a couple of minutes because I think it really provides some good information for you, and it's going to be on the 40 Plus website as well, where you can find it there. But we just launched the latest version of workinnorthernvirginia.com, where I looked this morning, I think it's 143,000 jobs are out there across every industry, at any type of role. And so what we do is we have a subscription with an organization called Jobseq that basically, as they say in the tech terms, it's scraping, it's identifying all the publicly posted jobs out there, and we're centrally posting those for you. And I'll show you how you can even search, by remote, for example, remote jobs, or specific job or specific company. So it's just another tool to help you out there. There's plenty of upskilling resources, and find your communities if you're looking for a potential different community. Number of career fairs coming up that I'll touch on as well. So I encourage you to take advantage of that site and know that it is refreshed on a daily basis. So we keep it very current. As I noted, 100,000+ jobs out there from DC across all of Northern Virginia. And like I said, you can type in that search box keyword remote and find remote jobs. If that's, what's appealing to you. If you want to go in the office, then you can see, different industries of focus out there. And so just tons of opportunities at all levels that are out there. Upskilling, certifications. We have a whole upskilling page, and what's cool about it is again, cyber and tech I touched on. There's all kinds of tools and resources out there for certifications, to go get a certification in whatever technology, or it could be healthcare, it could be anything that you're interested in. There's something out there for everyone, and we have lots of resources out there on this site for you to take advantage of. If you want to go do something on your own, if you're like, I want to start my own company. If you're considering doing that over on the Northern Virginia side, specifically here in Fairfax County, we hold a monthly, Entrepreneurship 101 course. And it's very well attended, as well as very well resourced. Karen Small, that runs our diversity and entrepreneurship programs for us, She's been here for 20 plus years and really runs a great program. I'd say take advantage of it, even if you're looking at other areas, outside of the county, because she brings in the Small Business Administration on how to find, resources and funding from SBA. She brings in guest speakers on, best practices on launching your own business. So keep that in mind as well. And that one's off through our Fairfax County EDA.org site. We're working to bring more of that together. But again, know that there's tons of opportunities to if you're looking to rebrand yourselves or do something different, there's lots of opportunities out there to start your own business.
Hey, Mike, if I could pause you at this moment.
Sure.
We have some folks putting questions in the chat. I had a couple of people that were wondering, you had mentioned a company that's currently hiring in the Tysons corner area that you specified.
Yeah,
Could you
ID.me.
ID.me, okay.
Yeah, so we can even look it up here in a second, but ID.me, started by a young veteran and doing identity management. They sell subscriptions where you can have your data held in a secure environment as well. So there's lots of cool stuff that they're doing, but it's a fast growing business, well funded and growing rapidly. So ID.me. That's just one. Another one's alarm.com. Alarm.com just announced and did an announcement with the governor last week that they're adding a few hundred new jobs there in Tysons. So alarm.com. So we're sponsoring lots of organizations like 40 Plus. One that I wanted to mention because they have a career fair coming up next week is Women in Technology. And again, they've been clear, and you can see it when you go check it out, that come one, come all, not just women, but this is an event being held next week in person at the Tysons Hyatt Regency on next Thursday, I think it is, on the 24th from 4 to 7. And so we will have a booth there, but there'll be, I think I heard there's close to 50 companies that will be hiring that will be there next week. So I'd encourage that from across the region. And then a number of other associations that we sponsor and support and engage in. One here, in BTC, just to show you, share an example of things we're doing to try to get the attention of our human resource leaders, as well as their division leadership, is next week on the 23rd or 22nd, I think it is, and it's on our site for events, but we're doing an event that's catered towards chief human resource officers, but the whole messaging is around apprenticeships and hiring those skilled through alternative routes, meaning they might not have a college degree, but they bring the right skill set. So we're doing events like that in partnership with Northern Virginia Tech Council and other organizations to really encourage our human resource officers to consider, all different walks of life, all different angles of hiring, because I think, for them to fill these 143,000 jobs out there, they're going to have to be creative. And I think that's a great opportunity for you that are looking for, a career transition at the 40 plus level. Wanted to give a couple of best practices on what I've seen as I was a hiring manager at Microsoft for probably half my time there at Microsoft. I'm a hiring manager here now in the government angle. I've seen lots of resumes, and I'd say nowadays there's a couple of things that are critical. You have a lot of it that's being fed through automated technology that's sort of screening through automation. So it's really important to be crisp and clear and focus on, impact that you've made, not just the activity, but impact. If you led something, what was the impact for the organization, for example? So noting that, I think, is really clear, are key. Remove for those of us that are 40 plus, removing your college graduation date. There's some key dates out there. I think that's helpful too, because no one's going to be asking how old you are. You know, in an interview, it's not the way of the world. So I'd say also limit your years of work experience. You don't need to go back, you know, to right when you left high school or college. Start with the most relevant, the previous experiences. So you know, I didn't go back all the way to right after college for myself as well. I took the college date off my resume. I'd also say, you know, note volunteer experience that you have too, because you never know what kind of connections that might make. Somebody might have an affinity towards, you know, the YMCA's, for example, and like it's like, hey, I see you volunteered there, and you just never know where that'll help you make a connection point. So just some best practices that I think helped me and that I've seen out there too, that you know, try to limit, you know, to a 2-page max, even for those of us that have been working for 30, 40 years. You know, I think just really providing the executive summary, the impact, and the most relevant, you know, last, you know, up to maybe 20 years worth of work experience is really going to be beneficial. Let me stop there. I'm going to see what questions we have. What I want to do is really just go to the website and just have you guys ask any questions that you might have. So Ron, if you see any that pop up and I missed, just don't hesitate to stop me again. But what I wanted to do is just sort of walk you through a little bit of the site. Like I noted, you know, you just click on find a job, scroll down. That's how many jobs are open right now across the region. Again, does not even include the Maryland side, just Northern Virginia and DC. But let me see if I type in ID me. So let me just go back, workinnorthernvirginia.com.
We did have several people in the chat who were showing interest in businesses that were willing to train in cybersecurity.
Okay. All right.
If you any that do that.
Yeah, I'll share a couple right there. Let me just acclimate you to it, and then I'll show you a couple on the cybersecurity side. So employer resources, that's something new we just added that's really helping our companies, you know, find folks and the different resources on apprenticeships, internships, those type things. On the upskilling side, really want to get you acclimated to it, because that's where you have the general upskilling. So lots of different tools out here from the even community colleges or different industries. So again, if technology industry is not it, but knowing that this region's really high on that market, but there's everything. We have healthcare, we have even, you know, banking. So you name it, and it's on here. But you know, here's cyber skilling. And so a couple things I want to point out here. There's a number of organizations that you can do, you can take some certifications with and provide training. So check out the cyber and tech reskilling resources. There's a couple of companies that I really am bullish on. I really like their business model, called Reviture and SmoothStack. Again, you're going to find that under the upskilling resources, cyber tech. These guys certify. What they do is you might take a test on do you have the aptitude around technology, and getting a certification in that technology field. If so, they hire you and you're a W-2 employee for them day one, while you go through a 15-week training to get a certification. They have certifications in about 50 different areas. So chances are, if that's an area of interest for you, you're going to find a certification that could be appealing to you in cyber or cloud, which is big now. You know, working with the Microsofts, the Amazons, or their business partner community, which there's, you know, 15,000 tech companies right here in Northern Virginia. So just know these two companies are really interesting on the model, because then what they do is they hire you, they train you, and after your 15 weeks, they place you with a company. And so they might place you with an ID.me, an Alarm.com, an Accenture, or whoever. And and there's the opportunity to then go work for those companies. I think you have a year contract because they've paid you while they've trained you. So that's an interesting angle as well. So there's lots of different upskilling tools out there. And then virtual career fairs, that's where I just touched on. And this next one is actually not virtual. And I need to have our guys change the wording on it because it's not just virtual. This next one, as I noted, is next week. So you can go register right here for the Women in Technology career fair. And I want to emphasize again, men, women can both attend, as well as note that these companies, yes, they might be hiring primarily technology type jobs, but every company has every type of role too. So if your specialty is, finance, HR, operations, marketing, sales, those companies are there hiring as well. So consider that career fair that's coming up next week that Women in Technology is having. And if I go back here to the find a job, just know, like I said, you can search by keyword. If I type in remote, if you're interested in a job where you do not need to go in the office, there's 4,700 jobs right there. And so what this does, just so you know, is like HR generalist. This takes you to directly to the company to apply. We're not playing the middleman. We're just trying to help extend the reach for you. So you go apply directly with them. So just know that this site provides that tool for you, just to let you see what's out there from across the region. So workinnorthernvirginia.com. I'd say the two areas that are really going to be key: the upskilling resources, virtual career fairs, and then again, just find your community. Another thing that's interesting too is we have a map. If you're wanting to say, hey, I want to work for a particular industry, let me just go back here again. So find a job, company and industry cluster. So under that find a job, you can say, look, I'm interested in working for a headquarters, because again, they're going to have every type of job. It gives me all kinds of different opportunities at a headquarters type company. And this map sort of helps you get a little acclimated to, if you do have to commute, or if you want to look for something near you, it tells you what, shows you where they are. Plus, then you just go to those different companies. And again, it takes you directly to their site to look at their jobs. So again, different tools, just, that are out there for you. That's really what I wanted to share at a high level. So I'll open it up just to see if you guys have any questions. I can continue to get you a little more acclimated to the site. But just know, what I want to just help you understand is that there is an opportunity out here for you. There's tons of jobs. There's, consider reinventing, what you might do, even if you've done something for, so long. Like I noted, I was in the technology world for so long. I've totally shifted gears. My wife, same thing. A lot of folks I know have just looked at doing something totally different. Go off and be an entrepreneur, or find a job that's just something that's more appealing for your interest level at this stage in our careers. So maybe you've done a lot around IT with AWS. I'll tell you, I mean, that accounting, IT professionals, hosting, AWS is just, as we know, they've Amazon Web Services. Amazon has their HQ too here. There's just amazing opportunities with that company. And again, any and all types of roles. So what portion of opportunities would be on a 1099, meaning, contractor base where you might have created an LLC, your own company, or you just want to be a contractor and not be a W-2. There's plenty of those opportunities. I don't know that I have a good stat on it. But when I transitioned and left Microsoft, I considered just not going back and getting a full-time job and just doing the same thing, just working on a 1099. I did that for about a year, and I had two companies that I contracted with on a 1099, and I think that there's many of those out there. I'd also say, based on networking and contacts you have, you might want to be proactive and ask if there are those opportunities to contract out. Because what I did, for example, was I just supported, because I had the Microsoft experience, I talked to Microsoft partners and others out there that wanted to consult to better understand how to engage with a big corporation. And I had a couple of different contracts out there, and I could have just continued down that path and was actually content doing that until this opportunity came up to really promote the county I've lived in my whole life. So that was pretty cool. So Janice is asking about remote. Has anyone had any interest or any success in the remote jobs and best practices they can share? I mean, I'll see if anybody has any to share. See someone posting on another career fairs, DC, March 16th and 17th, which is great. On your question about the remote jobs, trying to think if I have any examples that I can share on that. I know that as you saw in typing it, there's 5,000 that were designated remote, but I guarantee you there's a lot more that are out there where companies don't care. There's PricewaterhouseCoopers, a big accounting firm. They've pretty much said 100% remote, all jobs, all employees. So they're not all sitting on that site, but PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC. Many of them are hybrid. So if you're on the Maryland side and don't want to cross that river every day, or vice versa, I mean, more and more flexibility than in the past. Even where I am with the Fairfax County, the Economic Development Authority, we were, before the pandemic, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5 in the office. Now it's pretty much a virtual world. We're coming back maybe a couple of days a week, and it gives you a lot more flexibility. So I think it doesn't matter if it's a nonprofit, a government agency, or a corporate world. I'm seeing a lot more flexibility. But I think we have more influence than we've had in the past as employees, because there's 140,000 jobs in DC and Northern Virginia alone. So if they're going to fill them, they need to be flexible.
Mike, in relation to that, with more work being moved to a remote role, are there some additional skills that people should be trying to learn in order to be able to participate in that better?
Yeah, and I see Erica, you've got a question here, so we'll jump to that here in a second. But I'd say, just the remote, becoming as proficient as you can with the technology, with all of the different, Zooms, which I'm sure most of you have already done that. But just, knowing, be in the center of the screen, head towards the top, making sure your mic works, having good lighting, all those things that I'm sure we've all heard numerous times over the last 2 years. I think that's key. And making sure that an employer, really understands that you can achieve the same success and work from a remote angle that you were able to do in the office previous. From other skill sets, just making sure that I think for those of us in this 40 plus world, I think sharing, being proactive with anybody you're going to talk to about a job and letting them know that you can help those that are earlier in career with sharing best practices, with helping be a mentor, whatever it might be, to, again, one up and bringing more value to the table, even as a remote employee. Or somebody that's doing the hybrid is to say, hey, when I'm in 2 days a week or 3 days a week, I want to make sure that I'm taking on the leadership of mentoring those earlier in career to help them, because I'm sure it's a challenge for those that are young, that are just starting out, to how do I build my career? How do I learn, how do I learn how to network in the office when people aren't here anymore? So something to consider. Erica.
Yes, good morning, and thank you for all of your information. I just had a few questions about dealing with the recruiters, for example. So when I get a lot of calls from different recruiting agencies, and after they give me the right to represent, they ask me for certain things that like my last four, my social, they ask for my birthday and my actual address. And with that information, with knowing my name, you can go and do something like cybersecurity fraud or anything like that. I've locked my credit report and everything because of that. But is that information necessary? And should I not give that information at this time when a recruiter, this is initial calls?
Yeah, that does not sound like the normal process that I've seen from most recruiters, where that's well down the path. I think I would question those, if you're asked that, and I would not feel comfortable sharing that. I don't think that's something that should be shared until you've actually, even, I'm trying to think, some of those until you have a job offer. Birth date, those type things, that's when I think they're looking to do just a background check. They did a background check here when I started. I didn't, at the county, none of those questions were asked, didn't have any of that information to share until I was hired. All they had was my resume and LinkedIn until I was made a job offer. So that I would question any organization that's asking that out of the gate from a recruiter standpoint.
Yes, that's an overwhelmingly call. Like I apply for a lot of things on Indeed, or Dice, or ZipRecruiter, and when a recruiter's call, and it's usually like a foreign accent, not no kind of prejudice or anything, but it's like a foreign accent, and they say that the reason why it's a right to represent at the whatever the company is, and that they need to make sure that's not a duplicative thing. So what I just started to do, I have my I created a last four socials, not my actual one, and a birthday, and that's what I give. So then I'm always giving that one and not my official one, because I'm concerned with cybersecurity.
Yeah.
If you have a question, I have another question. If you okay with the time. So with the assessment, so like last week I had about 10 interview calls, like actual 30-minute, like not the initial interviews, but actual interviews, and like 2 or 3 a day. And then I had a series of like assessments. So in the assessments, oh my goodness, this is just a lot of them. And since I have a wide variety of knowledge, so with the assessments, how much does that weigh on you moving forward to the next step? The different various assessments, and should you prepare for all of the assessments?
And those assessments, are those like skills type assessments?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think you just need to be prepared for any and every type of assessment and interview skilled questions that might come at you, and I think those are important, because it's a lot of recruiters will ask. I'm hearing from different companies some of their strategies on their interview questions, and a lot of them, they're asking how you would react to certain things. It's not even skill set. It's as far as typing or technical or whatever, or management, but just asking sort of the psychological type of questions, like how would you address this? And they're always looking to see, is this person's response a positive response versus a negative response, those type things. So I think it's important just to be thinking through as many scenarios as you can in advance, because you're going to get a lot of different scenarios thrown at you during the interview process.
Yes, thank you. One last thing, should be quick. it seems like with the people that I interviewed with last week, and one of the questions I asked, like how soon or what's the next step, how soon before you'll make a decision. And to me, it seems like there's no urgency for them to actually fill the roles, because I got, in the next 2-3 weeks and things like that. And then even though I'm already on the second interview, you said you have 2 more interviews in front of you, or then we're going to send you a test, do that assessment, then it's a panel interview, then it's another interview. So it seems like it's no urgency. Even though there's a lot of jobs that they say, the news says it, and everyone says there's a lot of jobs out there, but it seems like the gatekeepers of that job to put the people in the position, there's no urgency to fill them.
That has been around a long time, and you are correct in that statement. I'd say a couple of thoughts on that would be, if there's any way you can find the hiring managers, you might try to get creative. If you're already talking to recruiting, you have to be careful about that. But I would encourage you to, if there's a particular company you're interested in working for, or you see a job out there, go on. If it doesn't show who the hiring manager is, which most of the time it doesn't, is try to see if you can determine it through LinkedIn. A trick I use is going onto LinkedIn, and you might type in the company name and the job title. Just, this company, whatever manager type role, and you might find somebody and try to just connect with them even before reaching out to HR recruiting. Because I'll tell you, for me as a hiring manager, I would say, and this was very similar with my peers, 80+% of the time we found our talent and the workforce we were looking to hire outside of the recruiters. I don't want to, recruiters are critical. They're out there working. You've got the HR recruiting, the career fairs, but there's a lot more urgency in those hiring managers. So if there's ways to find the actual hiring manager and engage them, you want to be careful. Like I said, if you already have started with a recruiter, that could alienate them. So you don't want to do that. But if there's ways to find those hiring managers before you start the process, that could really benefit you.
Thank you very much. I won't dominate the call anymore. I really appreciate your time.
Make sure I'm getting through all the questions too. I see one around, LinkedIn being on your resume. I think that's a good thing, but I would say it's critical, because too many times I will see a resume is different than what their LinkedIn profile shows, and that's not good. So just make sure that if you're providing a resume and you have a LinkedIn, which I would encourage everyone to have, make sure that they are 100% in sync and aligned. Hired, start dates, end dates, all the bullet points, everything is pretty much identical, because that's really critical, because that can throw up a red flag for recruiting, HR, hiring manager right out of the gate. You don't want that. So, but having the LinkedIn link on your resume, that's great, but just make sure they're aligned. I hate to see that DC government career fair is closed, it looks like, but hopefully maybe there's ways to get in that. Tips on how we interview. Can ask the interviewer. I found years ago when I was actively in the market, that was just important for me to ask interview questions. I think I get it, and I cannot agree more. I think the more that you're trying to get from the company, the interviewer, to get them talking, the better off you're going to be. They're going to turn around and they're going to ask you questions as a candidate, but they want to know that you've done your homework. Now, one thing I'd be really conscious of when you're doing that, though, is when you go into interview, and if that's online or in person, make sure you've done your homework online on that company's website. You don't want to go in and start asking questions that are readily available on their site. You want to be asking questions like, tell me about the company culture. A lot of times that might not be on there, and things like that. So ask questions around things like that.
Mike, I'd like to first of all recognize Erica. I think a lot of the comments you made were excellent.
Yeah.
And definitely brought some something to the table. I bring this up, Mike, is because I guess when you're really out there interviewing people, everybody's eating up everybody's time. And I did found that I was in a series. I happen to have been in the industry for a period of time. And there's certain people who are gatekeepers, and there's certain people who can make certain decisions. And I found after I was in the loop going around and around that I started, I don't know, just asking. I had 3 basic questions that I would ask them. And sometimes I tell people, I said, I'm actually out here talking myself out of jobs, because if they couldn't answer those 3 questions for me in a mutual relationship, because I felt that it wasn't a good fit. I was willing to walk away. I was willing to say, I'm not going for the 2nd, 3rd, and 5th interview because you're taking me on a track, and I already know that this role is not, it was like beyond expectations or outside of expectations. So not only do you do the traditional read the background on the company and make us feel like little lab rats, also do the homework on what you really want, what you're looking for, and what you expect that job to be, because you are the final performer. And I have been in situations too where I've taken jobs that I thought they knew what they wanted, and once I got in the job, it's not what they wanted. The expectations were different, and I put myself in an unwinning situation. So I would suggest people be cognitive of that as well. Don't be drawn into a situation just because you want a job, because it may not necessarily be the best opportunity for you. So I'm just saying, have yourself a couple of quick questions or pointers that you may want to ask them, so that you can also be making the assessment, and it's not one-sided, it's two-sided.
Good points. Good points. I see question in here around, most or a lot of the experienced jobs that are open that require experience are filled through internal referrals. Applying online, just cold, not having any contacts, has a slim chance. There's some truth to that, so it's something to always consider. Where I'd say how you address that if you have a company that you're interested in working for, where you might not have that internal contact, is leverage LinkedIn. First of all, type in the company name and see if you have a connection somehow through LinkedIn. And if not, then find a way to make a connection with whoever that first contact is. Find something either on their LinkedIn where it's like, hey, I see they went to this school or they're from this town. Find a way to bond and make a connection with someone right out of the gate to break that ice. I'll tell you, that's something I've always done. If you do it in person, you walk into someone's office, look around their office and see what you see, that where you're like, you might make that personal connection with them. So, because you're right. A lot of times if a job's open, the hiring managers are going to ask, their peers, hey, do you know anybody? So those internal referrals are big, but there's absolutely a lot of jobs that you can find where you're going in cold. You just have to make sure you break that ice, you find the connections, you sell yourself, and you, like you said, you ask a lot of questions. And as Janice noted, I saw one just this week where somebody was qualified and actually already had a job offer. It was in the tech world, and it was almost to your question earlier, Erica, too, where the first thing they did when they sat down for the interview was they were asked to fill out an application on pen and paper that basically mirrored what was on their resume, and what was already provided. And the guy just pretty much canceled the interviewee, the job seekers, like, you guys are, this is not an organization I want to work for if you're going to waste time doing things like this. So it was really interesting. That's why I think you have more opportunities to really, decide your future. But again, it's critical to make that connection as early as possible.
And Mike, I have a follow-up for that about the internal candidates. Is that happening less often now with the Great Resignation, that the internal candidates are going elsewhere?
You know, and when we say the Great Resignation, I think most of that is folks they're either reinventing themselves, finding a different job that they really, you know, would prefer over what they're doing now. But again, a lot of it is through networking, it's through connections, which is why I think, you know, events like this and conversations like this and this membership that you guys have, this is great, because we all need to network with each other, and I think that's going to be, you know, could be the key differentiator in landing that next job. But I'd say with the Great Resignation, it's still, you know, I think companies are more open than they have been on being creative, on hiring, and more flexibility, but it's still a lot of word of mouth out there. Let me see, looks like might have found that site for the registration, which is good. Any other questions I'm missing here? What type of candidate or key skill sets are you seeking? This position. Yeah, I'm seeing Janice with some of the questions. Yep. Yeah, I think the more, like the Women in Technology Career Fair that's next week, any of these that are in person that you can really, you know, especially the in person, because most of us have not been doing in person for the last 2 years. The more you can get out there and just go to that event and push yourself to start asking the questions, or see what questions are thrown at you, seeing how things might have changed over the last 2 years. I think it's good, even if it's not the, you know, go talk to a couple of companies that might not be of interest out of the gate. So you can just, you know, get rid of the cobwebs and for these in-person events and see where the conversations go. And you never know, it could be a good career opportunity with a company you just least expected. Yeah, the automated resume systems, you know, I agree with where the automated, you know, resume screening now has eliminated great candidates. There's lots of other things, like, again, you might have brought the right skill, but it didn't show the right degree or the right certification on there. You know, I'd say, again, thoughts on how you overcome that is, I use it every day, and I really would encourage you to do it on trying to, if I'm trying to reach, you know, any company or any organization, it could be a university, whatever it might be, I'm going to LinkedIn and I'm just doing lots of searching, and I'll try lots of different folks at different levels, and try to find a connection, or just try to reach out and say, hey, I'm interested in your organization. I want to see if I can get a couple of minutes time, because this is the role I'm going after, or I see you have this experience. And, you know, that has really paid dividends and really helped me get in the door with organizations that I'm trying to reach, even for what I'm doing right now. If I'm trying to find a university to say, hey, have your students consider jobs and internships here, for example. So, so really, I'd say take advantage of just different type of searching of company name, title name, and LinkedIn, and see what you get. See if you find folks that you might have a connection with. I see someone was able to get into the DC Career Fair, which is great. Question around fundraising, development, direct seeking such roles. How much are you seeking? How much money are you seeking? Are you saying that's people asking you that? I want to make sure I understand the question, because I know that looks like Janice, you might be typing that.
No, I think, Erica, somebody asked me what were the 3 questions I asked, and I said I couldn't recall. They were just generically. Okay. I did it first, and then I said, oh, now I remember, because I had been a fundraiser and development director. If I went to a company and I asked them the 3 questions of, you know, how much are you seeking, for what purpose, and by when, if they couldn't, because I had been in the field, if they couldn't respond to those 3 questions, I was extremely cautious.
Yeah.
You know, I knew that they were a product that I needed to promote. And if they couldn't answer the questions, I'm not sure how
Yep.
effective I would have been. So
Yep.
those were the 3 questions I would just.
Yeah. Okay. And
But
then
that can apply in a lot of situations, I think.
Yep. And then question on interviewing as the interviewer on candidates taking notes. I mean, I think that's a great thing. It shows you're showing interest and you're committed to that particular opportunity that you're talking to. You're interested in what the interviewer or the interviewer is saying. So taking notes is great. I always be careful on, again, it's always be thinking about the organization you're talking to and anything that might conflict with that organization. You know,
You might want to ask them up front. I'm sorry, you might just say, do you mind if I take notes? Because some people may find it.
No, that's a good, that's a good point. Erica, you've got your hand raised again.
Yes, I was just typing it out and I said, let me ask you, how does the optional questions at the end of the application factor in? The ones about what's your race, your gender, the veterans, but I know veterans probably go to the top because of the veteran status, and then the disability. So how much do you opt out or opt in those questions?
You know, I don't have a lot of experience on that from the early in the interview process stage. Like I don't think, you know, I wouldn't feel comfortable filling out, you know, a lot of that until I've, you know, gone through an interview process and had and been offered a position. I really don't see why an organization would be asking that. I would question that particular organization for asking those type questions.
Every application I fill out now, whether it's on Indeed or even the employer's website directly, at the end of the application, they always ask a question like, what's your race, what's your gender, and then are you a veteran, and then if you have any disabilities at all. So that's why I was like, I go back and forth with answering those questions.
And that's before you've even had your first interview.
Right. This is the actual application. Every single application has that.
Interesting. You know, I'm not sure how to answer that one. I think that's one that I would I'd say if it's an organization you feel is reputable and one that you really want to consider working for, it might be something to just go through that process. Okay. On the in-person career fairs, you know, asking about wearing a suit and dressy casual, I think, you know, for these starting back in these in-person career fairs, I would encourage formal attire for the in-person career fairs until we really get a feel for what for what the requirements are. I think that would be important. You know, for me, I think it's as a hiring manager for, you know, a large company, for a government agency, I think just, you know, for me, what I've always looked for is someone that's really showing that they've done their homework on the organization, no matter what it is, and they're showing their passion for what they are applying for and can give examples of what they've done. You know, I just hired a veteran to help us engage the veterans, for example, and man, he is just really passionate about that world, you know, he was, you know, came to the table with, hey, I understand this market. I'm really passionate about it. I was a veteran, and really showed that he had compassion towards helping veterans, military spouses, whatever it might be. So just making sure you've shown that you've done your homework, you're interested in that organization, and again, providing some examples, I think, is really key. What other
I-
question?
A question about your jobs website. Are all the businesses in Fairfax County that are looking to hire, are they all in that, would they all be on that website, or is that?
There's some, I mean, those are all of the publicly posted positions that Jobseq pulls from. So there's always a chance that there's others that are out there, but that's any publicly posted job that's out there. It's coming. They're on the site. Now there's some companies that might not have posted on externally. They might just be on their career site, and some of those are not. So look up a company, go to a company's website if you're interested in that specific company, because they might not have posted their job through, LinkedIn or Indeed or advertised it anywhere else, and it just might be a job posting on their career site that might not have been pulled onto ours. So I'd still encourage you to go directly to a company's site.
One specific question about ageism. What is your experience with individuals that are 55 and older?
I was a little concerned about it when I came in here to interview. I'm like, all right, I'm 55. I was 55 when I came in and applied for this role, but I hit that one head on. I didn't have to hit the age, but I just made it crystal clear that I have lots of years ahead of me in wanting to work. I shared experiences where my dad retired at 75, my grandfather at 90, so I plan to work for many years. And so you just want to hit it head on. I mean, you don't need to say, hey, I'm this age, unless you feel comfortable. Then I didn't. I'm like, hey, I'm 55 and my dad retired 20 years from now. So I'm going to come in here and I'm committed to this organization for many years. And I bring lots of experience. That's just the message that we bring. Everyone on this call, it's like we bring lots of years of experience. We can share best practices. We can help mentor your early in career staff, and we bring a lot to the table. So a question around how do I build, bridge that gap, between just totally transitioning careers. You bridge the possible experience gap for the career that you wanted to transition into. For me, a lifelong Fairfax County resident, I knew this area. It was a pretty easy transition. I'm still working with a lot of the tech companies, including my old company, Microsoft, and helping them and working with a lot of their recruiters, their military affairs folks. So I think even if you want to do something totally different, try to figure out, how you leverage the experience you gained from your previous jobs and careers, and how that might relate to doing something totally different, which it did for me. I'm still, working with the tech world, but in a totally different capacity. So be thinking about that from whatever your previous career was, if it was in, healthcare or hospitality or whatever it might have been in. It's like, how do I take the hospitality experience and do something, a totally different job? How can I relate those two? Just be thinking about those type things, because you can absolutely do it.
And earlier you mentioned like opportunities like in the areas of cybersecurity and others. Are there any areas where of certain skills or occupations that the opportunity is actually shrinking? There's a shrinking demand for those sorts of things that you're aware of?
No, not that I can think of. I think all the roles that were out there, there's certain things, realtor, right now it's like, homes are easy to sell. There's different, if you think about realtor or some positions like that, but I'd say, most of the jobs from HR, operations, sales, marketing, finance, all of those, they are still in just as highest demand as they've ever been. And I'd say, continue to network, continue to do research, and again, make sure you're coming in, prepared with any conversations that you're having. with an organization you might be applying for, and sharing, and right out of the gate, being prepared to share what value you're going to bring. My experience, my expertise can bring this experience to your organization. I think that's key. Quite interesting question, Kathy, on, maybe you switch careers and you want to go back to it. I think about that myself. It's like, what if I want to go back into IT? How do you address that where there might have been a gap, where you did something different? I personally think that's a plus. I mean, it's like, hey, especially because my whole career in technology was selling to the federal and state and local government. I've now worked for the local government for the last 2.5 years. So it's like, I know the internal workings of that organization. So I think if you want to go back to a career you've left, what benefits, what did you gain from an expertise that you can bring back to that career from that? I think that's what you'd even put in those bullets for, updating your resume and LinkedIn and going back to the career that you might have, or the industry that you left.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with Upwork.
One comment about going back to a previous career, you might want to bring yourself up to date of what has changed in that area. There might be new certifications that are
Good point. Great point, Ron. Yeah, because I'm sure there's a lot changed. I try to keep up just through my network and reading on, the tech world I've left, but I mean, that changes so rapidly. You're right. I'm not familiar with Upwork, so I can't help with that one. So sorry, Erica.
Yeah, so Upwork, it's like a company that if you think about Uber or so, but for technical people, that's you could do online work. For people, it's short-term work, like day work. It could be a day project or a week or a month-long project kind of thing. So I didn't know if you was familiar with those kind of
Not,
companies. They're like Fiverr. You know the company Fiverr, where you have a task job and someone just do the job online, and then that's the end of your engagement.
I'll have to look that one up. No, I was not familiar with them.
Any other questions for Mike? Well, while we've got him here, this is your chance.
And I'll send, I don't know if I think we're going to post the deck, right, Ron, that I shared, because it has my contact information. Don't hesitate to reach out. I'd say, I can't touch base with everybody, but I'd say if there's a particular company here that's on our site, I might be able to point you to not the hiring manager, but somebody in HR. We have the contacts at most of the HR. I think someone did send me a resume, and I could sort of maybe just quickly provide a couple of bullet point responses back on, hey, you might want to modify this, just from my experience. But I know this is an experienced group here as well, and I hope that I was able to provide a little value to you this morning, and really appreciate you guys taking the time to spend with me, and vice versa. And I hope that this worknorthvirginia.com site can help you with some additional networking, and leverage that Women in Technology Career Fair that's coming up next week, if you can get to it, and the one in DC and any of the others, just to get out there and start to engage in person again, since it's all new to us after 2 years of being remote.
All right, last call for any questions, further questions for Mike.
Erica, you have another one.
Salary negotiation. What's the best way to negotiate salary? Like when they say who your range. So now I try to get, hey, what's the range for the position in before they ask me? Because if I say I'm looking for 150,000 and their budget is 180,000, then we say, okay, they're not going to pay more than 150,000. So how do you negotiate? It's like who shoots out the range first. So you don't want to get underpaid for the range, or you don't want to price yourself out either.
Yeah, I would try to, on that one, first of all, you want to stay away from the salary range until you get way down the path and you've got, you're pretty much at a job offer. And then let them give you an offer. And then that's when you can say, hey, I really want to work for this organization, but here are my requirements. Because again, you might have been thinking 150, but they had 180 to offer. But but I think I think now you have a lot more you can be asking for too around, you know, some more remote work opportunities, or paying for college, or paying for certifications, or whatever it might be that you can negotiate on top of just the salary component to it. But I think, you know, sharing, hey, this is really what I think my value brings. You know, this is what I was making. This is my value, and so, you know, I really think I need, you know, a little bit more in that offer. But you want to try to stay away from that out of the gate.
Yes,
If
I
they
try
do
to.
ask, I'm seeing too that, you know, if they ask that salary range early, it's a tough one. You know, I think, you know, if you have to go down that path, if they're asking you, you can say, look, I'm going to be flexible depending on the type of role we're looking for, and sort of try to keep it as vague as you can without throwing out a dollar figure that could scare them off. But, you know, trying to say you're flexible, you know, as much as you can. If you need to throw out a range, you might, you know, be careful about it, but throw out a little bit higher than you would estimate. But just again, say, look, I'm really at this point really more interested about the career opportunity with your company. But you know,
Yes.
here's a range, but you know, it's a tough one.
What
Jan?
I'm finding is that either on the initial call or that first longer interview call, the 30-minute call or Zoom, they ask that question. So I try to say I would like to be around 150, but I can go down as low as 120. However, you could pay me, there's no ceiling. We can go to $1 million a year. We have no ceiling here. So then people usually laugh, and then we go from there. But it seems like by the first interview, they're definitely asking that question, or even in the replies back from actual companies or even recruiters, that question is like first on top of someone's mind that I'm beginning to ask. Anyway,
yeah, and I know a lot of, not all, but a lot of them offer, like I know here at our Economic Development Authority, they put the range out there on when they post the job, but I know they don't all do that. So that is a really tough one. So
On that too, Erica, I think you're dead on, and I agree with you, Mike. I always used to try and ask them first if they had a range in mind, or if they ask you and you're not ready to prepare, I would try and, I don't know, respond to that with, I'd rather get a little bit more insight about the position before we go into salary discussion, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Yep.
Yeah, and there's also ways I used to, if I really was contending for a job, used to be a site out there you could research for the particular geographic area, that particular position in the job, so that you went into the interview and having a ballpark idea of what that job was worth. And that's always good to have in your mind as well, so that when they offer a range or you suggest a range, you can, because I've come back, well, I've done it more when I was negotiating for contract work, and I was able to come back and say, you know, this is the standard amount, and you know, the DC area or whatever. But have something in mind if you can too as well. But absolutely, that's a tricky question.
And I agree with that, Janice. Also, like Glassdoor has some salary information that you can pull up. It may not be completely accurate, but then you have a range, even by a specific industry or company. The other thing is to consider, from what I've heard, whether you're working with a third-party independent recruiter. A lot of times up front, what I've found is that they do want to make sure that there's a match, and they're really kind of on your side because they get paid more if you get paid more versus an internal recruiter. So it really kind of depends, from what I've seen, on who you're talking to. Yep,
that's a good point. I mean, I met with a chief human resource officer the other day, and they watch that Glassdoor.com closely because they're very concerned about, you know, what's the reputation of my company that I represent, that I'm the head of HR on it, you know, so they worry, you know, they want to make sure it has a good rating on the salary, the culture, all those type things. And that's where, you know, doing all that homework before you even have the conversation, that shows how you prepare. And I think that brings some more value to that hiring manager or recruiter.
Mike, I'd like to thank you. I know I've seen several people in the chat expressing their thanks. Thank you again for joining us. And we're happy to have you as a sponsor, and the work that you're doing with the Fairfax County Economic Development Authority to help connect us with the jobs that we need, and also to the benefit of the businesses that you represent.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I think this is a great organization. We actually have an alum of the 40 plus here in our office, John Blair, and he's a huge advocate for 40 plus, and we're very supportive. And I know there's something out there for everyone, especially in this region. There is an opportunity out there for you, and I wish you all the best. I know you'll find something. So stay in touch and let me know if I can help. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for some of us, we just have to work up the courage to cross that river. But anyway. Once again, go to make sure you check out the Fairfax County FCEDA website, job, which I have to look up again, jobs in Northern Virginia.
Workinnorthernvirginia.com.
Workinnorthernvirginia.com. And you folks, everyone, have a great day, and hopefully see you next Monday.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.